Okay, so we are live, and thank you if you are joining us, and or if you're watching this afterwards. So my name is Billy Hoekman. I am the Vice President of Nutrition and Communication for a company called Green Juju, and we make absolutely amazing supplemental products to make your dog or cat's diet that much healthier. So this is a very special live. If you're used to watching lives with me, usually you just have to be with me. But today we have a very special guest, and that is Kelley Marian. She is the owner and founder of Green Juju, and she is the mastermind behind not only the original concepts, but all of our blends and treats and absolutely amazing products. So, Kelley, I'm so glad you're here today.
Well, thank you for having me, Billy.
Technically, you pay me,
Flattered to be here.
so it's good to see people start streaming in and saying hi. So thank you for that. So today, one of the things we want to do in 2022 on the education part of our lives is we want to start talking about specific concepts, because I think you guys really come on here and you crave information and how you can make your dog and cat healthier. So today we thought it would be a really cool subject to start out with. Plant diversity, as you can see in the title of this live, which I think in terms of dogs and cats is a topic that not a lot of people talk about. So I think it kind of gets overlooked because people think about dogs and, dogs as carnivores and where does plant matter fit in. And so I think this is a very important topic. And one of the things I've always said is, uh, dog food companies, in the past, 50 years have been using plants in the wrong way. So I think we swung a little bit too far on the plant side of things when it comes to people, their opinions on plants. So one of our goals at Green Juju is to show everyone how we can add and incorporate healthy plants. So Kelley, can you go into a little bit what is plant diversity in a dog's diet?
Well, I mean, it basically just means that you want to feed a variety of plants. When I chose how to make our blends, I chose different properties that each plant had. Some are more detoxifying, some are more anti-inflammatory. Every plant has different properties. Even if one green thing looks like another green thing, they have different properties and different benefits. And so in the past few years, there's been a lot of research on the gut microbiome. And one of the things that has come out recently is that eating 30 plants within a week leads to the greatest gut microbiome diversity. And so really what we're talking about is just getting the broadest variety of plants in your pet's diet as possible. And so 30 plants sounds like a lot. Like, I know you and I were talking about this the other day and you were like, how would I possibly do that? But if you think about, like, our Just Greens blend has 9 plant ingredients in it. Then our Bailey's blend has another 5 or 6 unique plant ingredients. Then there's the Golden blend. And then I add something with sprouted seeds in it. Those count as plants too. So it's actually not that hard to get to that 30 number. And like I said, they all just have different phytonutrients, different benefits, and they feed the gut in different ways.
Yeah, and I think one of the things to think about for those of you who are watching this is, 30 is a great number, but the more you can diversify, it doesn't have to be 30. So the more you can diversify within that number, I think the better. So I think that's definitely something to shoot for in terms of getting more of that plant diversity in there. And as well as I do, that one of the things I love talking about is the microbiome and bacteria in general. So this is very exciting. This subject is very exciting for me. So now that we know that plant diversity is not just including plants in your diet, in your dog's diet, but getting as many different types of plants. What are the health benefits of doing that? So why are we diversifying the plants in our dog's diet?
Well, each plant has a different makeup of phytonutrients. It has different benefits. And they all, some are anti-cancer, some are anti-aging, some plants like dandelion greens are actually really high in prebiotic material that help probiotics work better. Some benefit the eyes. They just all have these different properties. And so when you're getting a broader range of them, you're getting day out. The more you rotate, the more different benefits you'll get from that. I see Beth asked in here if we cook the plant ingredients. They're all raw. The only cooked thing in there is the bone broth.
Exactly. So that's one thing that I think people need to think about just on a bigger scale is the fact that, when you look at fiber and you look at the makeup of just foods in general, all of those foods are made up of all different types of chemicals and phytonutrients. And it's really, not possible to, boil that down in a lab at this point. So what we're trying to do is introduce all of those things in their whole food form where the body actually knows, what to do with said plants. And if you're looking back at even, the research, I'm sure that a lot of people here have, looked at or read, and you can write us in the comment section here if you've looked at the Forever Dog book, if you've read the Forever Dog book, definitely you're looking at a lot more of the research here in terms of doing that. But even if you look at the ancestral diet of, the dog's closest ancestor, the wolf, you're seeing a lot of plant material there, be it in the stomach of their prey, be it, just picking up whatever. So this is also an evolutionary process in terms of doing that. So I think that's very important. And I think too, I really enjoy that dandelion greens is one of your favorite. I think it holds a specific place in really feeding those healthy bacteria and as a prebiotic. And I don't really see dandelion greens anywhere else but Green Juju. And that's also in some of our treats, is it not?
Yes, it is.
So I think
Sure it is, Billy.
I think that's important. To be able to do that. So again, we always talk about at Green Juju what the specific health benefits are of plants, and each one of these things is going to have its own benefit. But we're today talking about the diversity of plants. So talk a little bit about, this is a goal. So this could be a goal. It is the new year, so this could be a goal for everybody watching. How do I get as many different plants into my dog's diet as possible? So talk about how Green Juju makes that easier, and maybe part of the processing that we do with our green blends.
Sure. Before that, I want to back up to what you were talking about, how we use obviously the whole plants and how it's different. When you see on a package like different vitamins listed out, those are what we call synthetic vitamins. And so they don't have all the cofactors that a natural plant would have in them, which means that the body just doesn't use it the same way. It's not as efficient. You can use way, way less of a whole food that has all those natural cofactors in it than you would of something that's in a synthetic vitamin form that the body has to actually work to get the nutrition out of. So I just wanted to touch on that. But in terms of how to get plants into the dog's diet, like I mentioned before, we have 3 different blends. We have the Just Greens blend, the Bailey's blend, and the Golden blend. And they all intentionally have different plant ingredients so that you're able to rotate through and get different ingredients each time. But then on top of that, when you're cooking in the kitchen, you can, whatever you're chopping up, you can just feed little pieces to your dog. So, peppers, tomatoes, celery. Really, the only things you have to stay away from are chocolate, raisins, and onions. So anything other than that, you can share with your dog. And it doesn't have to be in great quantities. Just little bits make a difference because they just have little bits of those different nutrient profiles. So we're not trying to flood our dogs with 30 different plants each week, but just get little bits of little things everywhere. So I think cooking is a great way to share with your dog. Or, take some blueberries with you on a walk as treats, or cut up pieces of carrot or anything like that. So whatever veggies you have in your life, as long as they're not onions, you can pretty much share them with your pet in addition to feeding blends like we make, or maybe you make yourself.
Well, and I think that little bits of everything is a good nutritional philosophy just in general, when it comes to all of the healthy things that we add to our dog's diet that aren't even their main diet. And I'll add too to that, the synthetic vitamin comment. So, you're absolutely correct in the fact that, you don't have those cofactors. But what a lot of people also don't know is that synthetic vitamins are a piece of a vitamin. So aside from even, everything else you're talking about in digestion and how that works in food. So a good example of that would be if you were to take a look at a multivitamin or something like that, it will say, vitamin C as ascorbic acid, right? So why is vitamin C as something else? It's because it's part of that vitamin. So ascorbic acid is actually part of the outer layer of vitamin C. And if you look at the actual vitamin, there's stuff in the middle of it, right? And there's other components to it. Vitamin E would be another one of those things as well. Tocopherols are the outer layer versus, the whole food version. So that I think is important as well when, we talk about that, concept. So obviously, we're making amazing products when it comes to the vegetable part of it. And I think it's worth mentioning as well that all of these compounds that we're looking for are going to be most bioavailable in a Green Juju product because of the juicing process that we do on these. And so we are actually breaking those plants down. It's not just grinding vegetables up. It's not feeding whole vegetables. It's juicing them down. So they're still in a raw food state. And those nutrients are going to be much more bioavailable to the dog, which don't have the same, makeup as a human to be able to break those things down.
When you're feeding those little bits, like snacks, when you're cooking, like I was mentioning, that's still good. It still gives fiber, which is really important for the gut. And it's, chewing satisfies your dog. It's a fun treat. But they're not going to get the nutrients out of the cell walls the same way as the way we process it, because we literally put it through a juicer that separates the juice from the pulp. And then we have a blender that blends it all back together so that the cell walls are completely broken down and then combined back with the pulp. So they're getting the fiber and the juice, but it's broken down in a way that the dogs don't have to do any extra step of digesting or processing to get the nutrients out of it.
Exactly. And Caroline makes a wonderful comment here and says, the Juju Just Greens blend has the best ingredients to drain the liver or detox the liver, like dandelion greens and celery. I think it's worth mentioning as well that, one of the things we talk about here is, with the Bailey's blend is that fermented foods, fermented veggies and fermented plant matter is going to give a different nutrition profile because it's essentially the breaking down of those nutrients or of those plants by bacteria. So you could almost consider it to be another set of plants with the Bailey's blend. So you could take your Bailey's blend, feed it fresh. This is what we recommend, by the way. We recommend feeding it fresh for getting the largest container, just feeding it fresh, and then after 8 days, it'll be fermented. So then you get the fresh nutrients, and that's almost like adding a whole nother subset of plants because you're pre-processing those and you're adding extra vitamins, extra organic acid, right? Extra nutrients to it. So don't forget also about your fresh and your fermented Bailey's blend to be able to look at some of these things like broccoli with the sulfur compounds, some of these very specific, anti-cancer property vegetables. So I think that that's obviously near and dear to my heart here. So Kelly, here's a question for you. And we can kind of go into questions. So Teresa says, would you skip a fruit or veggie if you can't get it organic? For instance, the store subbed my organic blueberries with just blueberries on the order today.
So we know about the clean 15 and the dirty dozen. There's some that are better than others to do non-organic. If it's a one-time thing, I think it's fine. I think that if feeding your animal veggies is a matter of organic or not, I think I still would, but I think in every instance possible, I would go for organic. And And, you know, everybody has different kind of thresholds with that. Organic's expensive. It's not always available. Does that mean that you shouldn't eat any veggies at all? Of course not. But, you know, I think it's just one of those things. You do your best when you can. And if somebody gave you regular blueberries on your order, I wouldn't worry about it too much. I would rinse them. I would definitely rinse them.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I would say buy the highest quality that you can do in your own life, and it definitely should not stop you from adding. I mean, if you're feeding dry food and you're not adding anything to it, I mean, it definitely should not stop you from doing that. I know that we're always going to use organic. We're always going to use the highest quality ingredients that we possibly can. So for those of you Green Juju users, that is our pledge to you. Beth says, I have the Bison broth. How long does it last in the fridge? And can I use it along with the blends?
So 5 to 7 days in the fridge, and you can absolutely use it along with the blends. You can use it on its own with anything. You can rehydrate the freeze-dried with it. There is no wrong way to do the broth.
Exactly. And the other thing to think about with the broth is that it's not very many calories. So you get a lot of nutritional... basically, let's put it this way. There is no dog that's going to become overweight from using too much bone broth. So, you get a lot of nutritional punch, and I would highly recommend using them together because, for my own personal experience and my own personal dog, who is right next to me in the chair being adorable. I love using the broth as a digestive starter. You can obviously do whatever you want. You can mix it with the food. You can, I love feeding it beforehand to kind of get the collagen going in the digestive system to kind of get it. And then combining that with our greens, you're going to be just, taking the microbiome in the digestive system totally and giving it what it needs to actually, grow that good bacteria that you're introducing through whatever you use to introduce good bacteria, be it, if you're using, some fermented veggies or the natural bacteria that comes from, even just plant foods that aren't fermented, or if you're talking about, that sort of thing. Both the bone broth and our greens blends are going to go a long way in doing that. So I think that's a very good point. Jennifer says, what is the best thing for an itchy dog? I think I know what you're going to say on this.
Okay, let's see. I would say the best thing is to figure out why they're itchy, which is probably a frustrating answer. I've dealt with a lot of itchy dog in my day. What I would do is pare the diet down to the simplest, most novel protein possible to try and eliminate any source that could be causing the itchiness. And then I would use a lot of bone broth because bone broth is great for soothing that gut lining that is potentially leading to the itchiness. That is where I would start.
That is not what I thought you were going to say, so you surprised me on that one.
Okay, well, I do have one more thing to say.
Okay.
I would also say try and find yourself an NAET vet. So it's a holistic vet that practices this particular protocol. I don't know, but it's called NAET, and it's basically an allergy desensitization program. And so they can help you figure out what is triggering your dog by using muscle testing, and then it's this kind of acupuncture process that will clear the allergen. So you can figure out what your dog can eat, what's causing the problem, get rid of the problem, open up more options in the diet. It's absolutely amazing. My vet actually wrote a great article on it in the Integrative Veterinary Journal that I can share if anybody's interested, but it's like my secret hack to life and dog life. Now, Billy, what did you think I was going to say?
Well, I heard from a very smart person one time that Nettles are great for itchy dogs. Is that true?
Yeah, that would have been a good one too. Yeah.
So Nettles are great antihistamine and have helped a lot of dogs I know in your experience that have dealt with, seasonal itchiness and just itchiness in general.
So our Just Greens freeze dried that we just launched has Nettles in it. So that would be a great way to get greens, plant matter, and Nettles in there. And it doesn't have any protein in it. So protein is usually what is driving the allergy. Grains can as well, obviously, but it's usually protein. So the Just Greens freeze dried is a great option because there is no protein in it, but it does have the Nettles. So thank you for bringing that up.
Absolutely. And while I plug my computer in, so this doesn't end, I'm going to have you answer this question. How should I start the broth slowly? How much by weight?
Should I start the rest of it? I don't think you need to start it slowly. And how much by weight? I think it's an ounce per 10 pounds. But I mean, bone broth is what it came from is our grandparents and their grandparents making chicken soup when we were sick and like cooking the chicken for 24 hours and getting all of the good nutrients and collagen and everything out of it. So it is truly one of the most healing, soothing foods. I have never heard of it causing any type of upset. It's actually my go-to thing. If something's off with my dog, then I'll fast her and just give her bone broth. So I wouldn't worry about starting slowly, and I wouldn't expect it to cause any issues at all.
I would agree 500%. And also, let's talk about our bone broth in being, we have bison and duck, and both are novel protein sources, and both are amazing, high quality, human grade products here. So I will tell you, I love both of them, but I love the bison bone broth the most. That is my favorite. They're both awesome. Although I think my daughter's favorite is the duck. So I'm just throwing that out there.
When I think I'm leaning towards the duck.
When she doesn't spill it all over. So
so I see, where was it? Anne asked why Cheryl's Healthy Pet Market can't get the dehydrated green juju. So we've had, over the holidays, we ship all of our stuff from the Pacific Northwest, which is where Christmas trees for the entire country go. And so pretty much a good chunk of December, we weren't able to get products out at all because all of the trucks were full. There was labor shortages because of COVID. We had a rough time shipping. So orders have just recently been delivered to most of our distributors in the past week. So if they don't have it yet, they should be able to order it any day now. Our facility's cranking. We have lots of inventory. It's just been a matter of getting on trucks because there just aren't enough trucks on the road right now.
Which is good news, because it would be a larger problem if it, we didn't have the inventory. So good news for and over there in my home state, Wisconsin. Obviously, I have to bring that up. So Amanda says, are we ever going to make larger containers of the Just Greens Bailey's blend and golden blend for those of us with multiple large dogs? So maybe what, a 60-ounce container?
I guess we have to see if our distributors will take like 5-gallon buckets. The true answer is the supplier that we use for our cartons, we're using their biggest size. So we would just have to find a different format to do it in. And once you get to that much volume, it's really heavy in the container. So a paper container wouldn't work because the bottom would fall out. So there's some logistics to figure out, but it's possible.
That would be interesting. I'm trying to visualize a 60-ounce thing of Bailey's.
Like those ice cream containers.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
So I have a question for you that's kind of random.
Okay.
And go with me on this. Have you ever been to the state of Texas?
Yes, I have. My dad lived there for a while.
Really? So is there anything, I don't know why I've got Texas on the brain, but is there anything you can tell us maybe about Green Juju in Texas?
Well, Billy, it's funny because I have been trying to get Green Juju to Texas for years now. And on the first, maybe second work day of this year, I signed a contract with a distributor to bring our products to Texas. And what else? Louisiana and Arkansas and Mississippi. I'm missing one.
I don't know offhand either, but somewhere down there. So that's awesome. So we're
coming to the Southwest.
So we're coming. No, that's not the Southwest. I don't think.
Yes, it is.
Technically, I don't think Texas is in the Southwest.
Isn't that like it's not Southeast?
South Central? That's not a thing.
We're not good at geography over here. We're coming down south.
Yes, we're coming down south. So Texas, all you people in Texas, all you stores in Texas, not only are we coming down to Texas to bring our products, but I will be in Texas. So I'll be down there in February, visiting some stores and hanging out with our wonderful distributor sales reps there, doing some fun stuff. So if you're watching this and you're in Texas, tell your store that they should order Green Juju from Supreme. So let's just throw that out there. We're so happy to be able to do that because I swear every time I do one of these lives, there's someone who says, "When are you going to be in Texas?" So exciting, and I know we're focusing on Texas, but we're not. All those other states down there, the Louisianas of the world, we love you too. And so it's kind of like when I would always talk, throughout my career, I would always talk about dogs so much I'd have to be like, "With cats too, though. Cats are great." So similar, Louisiana, you're great. So we're excited. That is
it's just the distributor is based in Texas, so there's a lot.
Yes.
You're going to Texas. There's some focus on Texas, but yes, we're getting to that area, which is very exciting.
So that is our big announcement today. And as a secondary thing, which we can't tell you anything about, we are working on some really fun stuff. I think we tell you this basically every time, but I want to tell all you guys that I am personally really excited about it, and so you guys will be too. So all of you in Texas and everywhere else, I think you guys will be have some really cool stuff. So
Billy and I are just a team of two, yet we decided we needed like a project management thing for all the stuff we have going on. And this just started yesterday, and like we're both just like popping up boards of all these different like ideas and projects, and it is busy and
it's
exciting.
true. Yes, and we I think we're doing incredibly unique stuff. And the cool thing, and something I've talked about throughout this whole process, has been the collaboration and the sort of bouncing ideas off each other, which are going to create things that people just haven't seen in the pet food industry. So super excited about that. So Krista says, what about dogs who are sensitive to histamines? What's that?
Was this on a particular topic, or where did this come from?
It's in the comments here. I'm just clarifying something for myself. Okay. So she's talking about due to a lack of DAO, which is the system in your body by which part of how your body metabolizes histamines and how that works. So
is it related to bone broth and histamine concerns or plants? Or?
I think it's actually related to like fermented. Well, the thing is, a lot of foods have histamines. Fermented foods have histamines. Some have more histamines. Like obviously, wine is going to be one that has a lot of histamines.
Bacon.
I will say that
the bone broth.
Oh, okay. So, I mean, I would say that most animals, if you have a diagnosed case of an animal that can't deal with histamines, that's pretty rare. I think most of what you see online for, histamines is more conjecture, meaning it's more in theory, saying, oh, this food has this many more histamines or this food has this many histamines. But most animals can just deal with those totally fine because that's how their body works. But if you're have an animal that can't specifically process histamines well, you're just going to have to try the individual foods to figure out what works for your dog specifically. So, because I in my experience, it's not super cut and dry based on the amount of histamines in foods and if it's tolerable or not. So you just have to kind of see and do some experimentation there, in my opinion.
The Texas distributor is Supreme Pet. Christine asked if the freeze-dried just greens blend follows the same juice, grind it, remix it model. And yes, it does. We make it the exact same way as we make the other one. It just goes in a freeze dryer instead of getting frozen. So it is the same. Dawn said we're getting crushed bags in Washington. We will talk to our distributor. We ship them in cases so that they stay intact. But then once they get to distribution, they're sold individually. And so sometimes they can get packed into a box with something heavy put on top that could not keep them intact. So we will check that out. But the good thing is you can still use the powder as a top on the bowl. Your dog will still love it. There's still all the nutrients. They don't work as well as carry around treats, obviously, but don't waste it. Still good stuff.
Absolutely. And I will take this moment to remind people the reason why we do these lives and why we love connecting with people is because we think it's important that there's a level of transparency with everything you use for your dog or cat. And so, I think it really provides people unparalleled access to a pet food company, because this pet food company, you're looking at it. So it's just me and Kelly. And so it's important that you guys can, know us and why we're making these products, and we can answer your questions outright. Because I know as a pet parent, I only use things that I trust completely. And so that's one of the things we're trying to do here. So just so, we're going to continue to do these, which I think is very exciting. Beth says, would duck bone broth have more calories? The calories are really negligible between both broths, and they're not very many. I can't recall exactly how many per ounce, but I think the bison broth is 4. So again, you don't have to worry about counting the calories of the bone broth, be it either of those things. So,
any plans for cat food or treats? All of our freeze-dried whole food bites are appropriate for cats, and all of our bone broths are too. So you could rehydrate the freeze-dried stuff with the bone broth for your cat. I have to be honest, I'm a dog person through and through. I don't know a ton about cats, but I do know that they need moisture. And so our bone broth would be a great way to do that.
Well, and I will say this too, because a lot of people say that, but dogs need moisture as well, as much as much as cats. But no, I think, and by the way, I had the pleasure of doing a live session with the 2 crazy cat ladies, and who have many cats, as you can imagine. If they happen to be watching this, hi to them. But, all I've heard from people is talking about the palatability of our treats to cats. Cats love our treats. It's a wonderful source of organ meat for them. And it's also a wonderful source of, antioxidants and good, healthy fiber there too. So, with cats, half the battle is getting them to eat it in the first place. And so, we've been getting a lot of amazing results with that. So, for you cat owners, all of you should be using bone broth. I agree 100%. And all of you should definitely be going between our treats. And I know a lot of cat owners are also using the salmon, but, our bison treats, our beef treats. I've actually heard a lot about the bison treats in cats, in terms of palatability. So
something about that. We have duck, salmon, beef, and bison. All of them except for bison have an 85% meat and 15% plant ratio, except for the bison, which is 96% protein and 4% plant. And so if I know that cats typically don't need as many plants as dogs. And so bison can be a good option for them too.
Absolutely. And I do want to take this moment to plug my upcoming event, so you can learn more specifically. A week from today at noon, up at Dr. Judy Morgan, who's definitely a Green Juju supporter. I am doing a class on Facebook, so just check out her Facebook. 1 week from today at noon, so that's January 25th. And the class is called How I Feed My Dog. And so I'm going to go through how I feed my dog, and you can find out how I add Green Juju and why I add certain things to my dog's diet, and have some important takeaways, I think, for your own dogs. So, we're all about more information here. So just wanted to let everyone know that was happening over at Dr. Judy Morgan's Facebook.
Billy, I don't know if you saw it, but I put on our social media calendar that I want to do a Kelly versus Billy bull photo, because your bulls are so beautifully articulated, or not articulated, but picturesque, and mine are just like slop. And so I want to do a side by side of our bowls, but we put pretty similar things in the bowls.
Yes.
Mine just look terrible.
Well, I will tell you, to let people into the inner workings of how dorky I am. The bowl pictures that I put on my Instagram is the only thing I use an actual camera for. Everything else is my phone camera. That's the only one that I sit there with an actual camera, like above, above my couch taking this pictures.
What
Someday
does
I
that
should
say
have.
about your daughter?
That's true. That is true. I know how to use the phone camera better. So, but that's what I'll tell her at least. That's a very good point. I did not think of that. That is good. Let us know. So Allison wants to know what my Instagram is. It's just my name, Billy_Hoekman. So check that out. Lots of awesome Green Juju ideas on there and pictures of my cute dog and daughter. So, so with that, I think it's probably a good time. Is there anything else you want to mention, Kelly, tonight?
I don't think so. We should have product in Texas by the end of the month. All of our products are, if things are missing in your stores, it's likely due to the holiday lag and things are getting caught up. If your local pet store doesn't carry Green Juju, you can ask them to special order it for you. We also have everything available on our website. Ooh, can I add the link to that? I'm going to add the link to the NAT article on the Facebook page when you post this video. Does that work?
Yeah.
Okay.
And as a reminder, this video will also be on our YouTube channel after, usually the day after. Also a ton of training stuff on our YouTube channel, just information. Also a great playlist of interviews that me and Kelly do on other people's channels. So go ahead and subscribe if you would do us a big favor to our YouTube channel. So I will end this off by saying thank you to everyone who is watching. You guys are already taking step one of being, amazing pet parents by just wanting more information and wanting to learn more. So we always appreciate that. And it really is our honor to make products for you guys that you trust and that, produce better health outcomes for your dogs and cats. So thank you guys so much. We'll be back next month and we look forward to it. So everybody have a good night.
Thank you.
And we'll see you soon.
Good night.